What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson, and the New York Giants are big game hunting for a wide receiver on the trade market, according to Connor Hughes of SNY, and really according to just about every reliable reporter and insider. They are all saying that the New York Giants have made inquiries to different teams looking to trade for a wide receiver. In fact, one of the reports that we saw from CBS Sports' Jonathan Jones mentioned that the Giants were already invested into the trade market for a wide receiver prior to Malik Neighbors going down with a season-ending ACL tear. So not only is this a response to Malik Neighbors being out for the rest of the year, they were already thinking ahead, trying to find somebody to pair with Malik Neighbors. And of course, we're going to go over 4 different options that the New York Giants have on the trade market right now. We are going to talk about Jaylen Waddle, of course. I know Giants fans are really excited about this. It's been confirmed that the Giants have reached out to the Dolphins with their interest for Jaylen Waddle, so we will spend a good amount of time on Waddle. We've got 4 specific wide receivers that have been listed and that we think are particularly interesting for the New York Giants to consider trading for. And I'm excited to go ahead, break it all down, go over their stats, and go over some mock trades, which is going to be a lot of fun. Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And when you're looking at the New York Giants, it sounds like they're going to be aggressive for a wide receiver. Good move, bad move? How are you feeling?
I mean, I feel like they have to do this. They need to give Jackson Dart somebody worth a damn. Right now, Darius Slayton is not practicing, and we know what happened last time he played with all the drops and the fumble. It was bad against the Saints. And listen, if you're Joe Shane, if you're Brian Dable, you have one goal in mind. Make sure Jackson Dart stays this confident and make sure he continues to succeed. You can't do that with this makeshift patch of receivers, right? You have Pat Surtain on the other side of the ball this upcoming Sunday. You could say he'll mirror Wan'Dale Robinson or he'll mirror somebody. Like whoever he goes up against is getting locked the hell down. So you need to have other bodies. You need to have other playmakers. You can't win with just one receiver and Wan'Dale Robinson. And the Giants have an opportunity to go be aggressive to get themselves a wide receiver. And to be quite frank, they need it. And not only for Jackson Dart, but because Neighbors, when he comes back next year, it might be a little bit of a slow, comeback after tearing his ACL, MCL. Like it was, full reconstruction. He still hasn't had surgery yet. So, he's going to miss some time in that recovery. They need to have a backup plan. They need to have, a WR1B. And I think that a couple of these guys are in that WR1 category. But the Giants have a chance to turn their season around. The NFC East is wide open. I don't see anyone that is pulling away in the division with a clear lead. I don't see why they can't get back into this campaign, and adding a big time offensive playmaker to the offensive side of the ball should be a priority. They can get one of these guys for minimal draft capital, or they could go a little bit more aggressive and get a guy that truly could be like a WR1 piece for Jackson Dart and open up this offense and allow him to be more aggressive and develop chemistry with the player long term. So Anthony, turning it back to you, what's the first receiver that pops to your mind? I've talked about a couple of these guys over the last few days, but now it feels like it's getting a little bit more real.
It does feel like it's getting more real, especially when we're hearing some of these reports from, let's say, Benjamin Albright, for example, saying that the New York Giants have inquired with the Miami Dolphins to discuss a Jaylen Waddle trade. There are a lot of insiders indicating that Waddle seems to be the big fish in the pond that the Giants are fishing for. But there are other names. They've been connected to Chris Olave. They've been connected to Jakobi Meyers. They've been connected to Jeudy and some other receivers as well. So we're going to go through those 4 in particular. But I do want to start with Chris Olave, Alex, and discuss him because we'll get into Jaylen Waddle. We will dive deep into Jaylen Waddle. But let's start with Chris Olave because this is another player who I think has a lot of potential, who could be a WR1 for this New York Giants team for the rest of the season, but also be a very capable WR2 opposite Malik Neighbors in 2026 and beyond. So let's start with Jaylen Waddle, pulling up his stats on the screen as well, guys. In the last episode that I did, you loved it when I threw up the stats for the New York Giants players. We're going to carry that over and continue to provide you guys with what you want. So always make sure to leave us feedback. But Alex, Chris Olave, why do you like him? Why do you think that he could be a good fit if that is who the New York Giants end up landing here at the trade deadline?
Well, listen, Chris Olave is a good football player. He has a capacity to be a lot better than what we've seen. The concussion history is very, very real, and I think that's probably why he won't go for a massive haul. Also, the contract situation, the Saints just don't have the money to pay him. So you might be able to get him at a little bit of a cheaper cost if you try to extend him because he has kind of been under the radar, because he hasn't really maximized his potential. So there might be a little bit of a discount there. But Olave has low-end WR1 production, in my opinion. That's kind of where I would label him. High-end WR2, low-end WR1. And that's the kind of play you need alongside Neighbors simply because if he goes down, you have a primary target. You have a guy that gets open. You have a guy with good hands. You have a guy that makes plays. So that's a critical component of any offense to have that backup. Olave is significantly better than Darius Slayton. Darius Slayton is pushed down to WR3. In fact, I would even say this. I would actually go as far as to say that if you had Olave on this offense and Neighbors was here, the whole offense was the same. Neighbors is WR1, obviously. Olave is WR2. Wandale's WR3, and I think Slayton's actually WR4. Like, that's how like not confident I am in Slayton being that good ever. So, they paid him like a low end WR2, but he's really like a WR4 on a good offense. So, that kind of opens up the whole offense for you. It gives you more security, more insurance. But Olave, the injury history and the price tag because of free agency is going to be hefty. So the Giants obviously have to weigh those two factors, and which is why if they do acquire a player like this, it's not going to take that much draft capital. You're looking at like a 5th rounder. I think somebody said a 6th rounder even. Like, that's a very, very low price tag to get him. Maybe a little bit more than that though.
I heard something different on the price tag for Chris Olave. So I've got here a 4th and a 3rd round pick because I saw some people saying that it could go up to a 3rd. We've got a mock trade on the screen for those of you who are listening. The mock trade is New York Giants receive wide receiver Chris Olave. Saints receive Giants 2026 4th round pick, 2027 3rd round pick. Totally possible that it comes in cheaper than this, but it's also totally possible with all of the teams that are in the market for a receiver, it could cause a bidding war and it could rise up the price of a Chris Olave, Jaylen Waddle, or whoever. Right now, the teams that I know of, Alex, off the top of my head that are in the market for a wide receiver, yes, it's the New York Giants. The New England Patriots are expected to be aggressive as well at this deadline. So are the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think there are quite a few other teams who are also looking for wide receiver help, including maybe even the Kansas City Chiefs. So there's a lot of teams that are going to be looking for receivers. And Chris Olave, some of the things that you mentioned there, he could be a low end WR1. He could be a really good player to lead your offense for the rest of the season. He could give Jackson Dart a reliable threat to target in the passing game and to help him develop as a rookie. But going into the second year of the Chris Olave experience, that's when things can get really interesting because you're talking about having 2 bona fide star outside wide receivers that will open up all that space over the middle of the field for your slot receiver, for your tight end Theo Johnson, for your running back Cam Scadaboo up the middle. Having those 2 premier outside guys opens up the offense. And that's why I think Chris Olave, being that he's only 25 years old, is a very enticing target. Theoretically, the New York Giants could trade for him. He has a 5th-year option already picked up, so he's under contract next season at around $15 million. And then if you like what you've gotten from Chris Olave so far, you can extend him and have him on maybe a 3 or 4 year deal. By the time that expires, he still won't even be 30 years old. That's the upside and the value of Chris Olave. He's very young, and yes, he's got that injury history. But I did see on Twitter a couple of fans have made this point in my mentions. When Sterling Shepard had all those concussions, the fear was, well, he's 1 concussion away from being out of the league. Here we are 6 years later. He's still in the league, and now he's putting in the work for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So concussions, you can't project them. They're very random. And yes, Olave's had quite a few of them, but he still wants to play. And when he plays, he's still a very good player. So it's just about getting him a good quarterback and getting him in an offense where he can be maximized and succeed. And I do think with the New York Giants, again, with Neighbors on the other side, Scadaboo running the ball, wearing down defenses up the middle, and Jackson Dart slinging that thing with confidence. Plus, Alex, there's an underrated element to this. Chris Olave on that 5th-year option next year. Let's say you trade for him this year. Next year, you decide, you know what? We actually don't have the cap space. We don't want him. Trade him at next year's deadline. You could literally just deadline ship him back-to-back seasons. It's not a very nice thing to do to Chris Olave to upend his life like that twice in 2 years. But if you really got to do it at the deadline next season for the New York Giants, you could probably recoup some sort of draft pick. Or if you don't want him in your long-term plans, you play him on 2025, 2026. He goes into the free agency in 2027. You're getting a comp pick because he's going to be good enough to receive a high-end contract. So there are already insurances baked into trading for Chris Olave and receiving a pick back for him because next year is the final year on his contract. And I do think that's a very high upside selling point for Chris Olave. But Alex, looking at this mock trade particularly that we have on the screen, once again, Giants sending a 4th this year, a 3rd next year for Chris Olave. What are your thoughts on that deal? And is that one that you would consider making?
It's a good question. I think that when it comes to Olave, look, if Tua's still in the league, I think Olave probably has a couple years left. If not, he's going to keep going until he physically, the doctors say you cannot play football anymore. But again, that could be one concussion away from that. So you just don't know. Here's the question, though, Anthony, and I think this is the one that it parlays well into the next topic, the next player we have here in Jaylen Waddle. Would you rather give a third round pick for Jaylen Waddle or a third and a fourth for Chris Olave? Because Waddle's already extended and his cap hits. The Dolphins have already paid a lot of that guaranteed money. So the contract actually comes out quite less for the Giants. So if we're concerned about Waddle's contract, it's not that bad. They barely have to pay him anything for this year. And next year, I think the cap hit for the Giants is like $8 million. It's nothing. It's literally pennies for a player who is a WR1. Has just had inconsistency on that offense, and the quarterback situation is very murky. But when it comes to Olave, I do think that, like you said, he is a low-end WR1. He is capable of being that great insurance policy. He is a good football player, and I'd be happy with him. I'd be happy with him. When it comes to the price tag, though, a third and a fourth, I think that's a little rich just because the Saints are a little bit in a bad salary situation where they can't really pay him, and they could extend him. But it also, it's a risk for them because of the injury history, and it's a risk because they don't really have a quarterback right now. So when you look at, the Saints salary cap situation, they're negative $14 million next year, and they haven't spent a dollar, right? They have multiple void years. Taysom Hill has a almost $14 million void year contract hit. Kamara has an $18.5 million cap hit. Cam Jordan's not on the team anymore. He's a free agent, almost a $19 million cap hit. Demario Davis is a $14.3 million cap hit. Foster Moreau, Rashid Shaheed, they restructured everybody. This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. And people are like, oh, the cap is not real. Guys, look at the Saints. They literally have no money to spend. It's crazy. And then when they go all the way to 2027, when they finally have all this money to spend, they're still paying Taysom Hill $6 million. They're still paying Cam Jordan $10 million in dead money. They're still paying Demario Davis $9 million and Foster Moreau and Rashid Shaheed. They're paying all these guys still in void contracts. They're still paying Brandon Cooks $1.6 million in void money. They have a lot of cap space, but they also have to replace half their team and have 2 draft classes. The Saints don't have enough money to pay anyone right now. So they actually don't have much leverage, and the Giants know that. So they might be able to get Olave for less than a third and a fourth. They might be able to only get him for a fourth because right now the Saints cannot pay him. They could just keep him and then maybe sell him at the next year's deadline. That's an option. But they still have to find a way to fit that $15 million cap hit under the books next year. So they can actually trade him. And this is what I would say for Olave. If they trade Olave, it brings their cap liabilities to zero. They're $15 million in the hole right now next year, and Olave's cap hits $15 million. So trading Olave actually gets them back to zero, which may be preferable to them from a financial cap space standpoint. Who knows? So, I do think Olave is a good option. He's just not the best option. That's kind of where we go with this is like, do you go for the home run? Do you go for the big game? Are you going for this is a pretty good catch, but there's bigger fish in the sea.
Well, let's talk about the bigger fish in the sea. That is Jaylen Waddle, who you did hint towards right there. Jaylen Waddle, to me, is the number one player that I want the New York Giants to run away from the trade deadline with. Now, there's been some conflicting reports on what his asking price might be. Some sources have said it could be a first-round pick. Others have said it's a realistic second-round pick. And then Benjamin Albright yesterday, while speaking to Art Stapleton, said it could be a third-round pick. So it's somewhere in that range. However, Albright also mentioned the New York Giants seem to only want to part ways with a day 3 picks, not day 2 picks. So if the asking price is a second or a third, the New York Giants might say no thank you because they want to have day 2 picks. They might say, hey, the highest we'll go is a fourth, and I don't think you're getting Jaylen Waddle for a 4th round pick. He is a talented player, and believe me, guys, when I say he's talented, he's a former top 11 overall pick. I think he went 11th to the Dolphins years ago. Top 20 pick for sure. A speedster, a guy who can play inside, he can play outside. I mean, he could literally fit anywhere on your offense. He can play the X because he's strong. He's not small. People say he's small. He's really not small. He's strong. He can play your X. He can play your Z. That's where he's best. And he can also play in the slot. And he's got the speed to take the top off of defenses. He has reliable hands. I mean, look at the stats on that 2022 season, Alex. He put up 75 receptions for 1,356 yards and 8 touchdowns that year. By far his best season. I mean, but he's consistent. He's gone for 1,000 yards several times in his career, but his yards per reception in that 2022 season should get you really excited. I mean, he catches bombs. He makes big plays. You want to talk about having an explosive playmaker to pair with Malik Nabers. Look no further than Jaylen freaking Waddle. He is the definition of explosive. And again, if you have Waddle on the outside, you've got Nabers on the other outside, the middle of the field will be wide open for whoever wants it. Plus, with all of that speed from Waddle, all of that speed from Nabers, now all of a sudden, Alex, you want to get into schematics, safeties that you're facing, they're cheating 5 yards back. They're a little bit further off of the line of scrimmage. You know what that does? Well, gives you the underneath passing option, or allows Cam Scadaboo to get to the second level and pick up some extra yardage. That's what that does for you. So putting another premier wide receiver in this offense in 2026 opposite Malik Nabers changes the whole shape of the offensive approach and attack. It opens things up for Scadaboo. It opens things up, obviously, for Jackson Dart. Opens up Malik Nabers by having a running mate with him. It does so much, especially when you're talking about a guy who is a WR1 talent, averaging over 1,100 yards per season with 6 touchdowns per season. In Jaylen Waddle, I mean, that would be big time. And that's only talking about 2026 and beyond, Alex. I didn't even mention 2025. Right now, the New York Giants are 2-4. If they somehow win on Sunday against the Broncos, they're 3-4. And then you trade for Jaylen Waddle and you march into Philadelphia with a chance to go 500. Oh my goodness, we could get really excited for the rest of the season. And Jaylen Waddle could help lead that charge with our rookie quarterback that we have a lot of promise in and confidence in Jackson Dart. That's how you maximize the rookie. So surround him with playmaking talent. I love the idea of Jaylen Waddle. The only question mark is, Alex, what's the price tag and are the New York Giants willing to pay it?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, listen, let me just give you some information on the cap hits. I know everyone's curious about, do we have enough money and whatnot. So the Giants right now, let's look at their cap space right now. They have for next year about 16 million in cap space. Now everyone will say, well, that's not a lot of money. We can't do anything. We barely signed a draft class with that. Well, guys, the good thing about this is this, right? There are a lot of players on this team, very good players that are already extended. Dexter Lawrence is under contract. Brian Burns is under contract. You picked up Kayvon's 5th-year option, so you have him. Andrew Thomas. You still have Abdul Carter in a rookie contract for another 4 years if you pick up his 5th-year option. Nabers is still on his rookie contract. Jackson Dart's on his rookie contract, and that's the most important thing. Jackson Dart is on his rookie contract, and he's a first-round pick, not a second. So if they want, they can pick up that 5th-year option down the road. They'll probably end up extending him early if he ends up being the answer and the solution here, which seemingly we all think he can be. And, that contract will kick in year 5. So we have 3 more years of the 25th overall pick cap hit. And, guys, let me just tell you, his cap hit next year, let's see if I can find it. It's so far down the list, I'm actually having trouble spotting it. His cap hit next year is a very, very, very low $3.8 million. That's what Jackson Dart's cap hit is in 2026. In 2027, his cap hit is $4.6 million. He's making nothing. This is exactly when you go and you make big moves like this because you have a quarterback on a rookie deal, and that money you won't see those big cap hits for at least the next 4 years. And even if they do extend him, they can backload those cap hits. So the first 2 years have very low cap hits, and then you just have all this money to spend. So what does this do? Well, this is what I'm trying to get to is Jaylen Waddle's cap hits approximately for the next couple years. 2025, this year, rest of the season, 1.27 million would be the number the Giants would have to assume for the rest of this year. 2026, $4.9 million cap hit, because keep in mind, the Dolphins already paid out his signing bonus. So there's a lot of money already taken care of here. 2027, $27 million cap hit, and 2028, when he's 30 years old, will be a $30 million cap hit. But with the way the cap is rising right now, that is a steal of a contract for a WR1. And let's say put a little bit more on top of this. If you end up giving a 3rd-round pick for Jaylen Waddle, let's say a 3rd and a 4th, you still have your 1st-round pick and 2nd-round pick. The Giants could walk into next year's draft and say, okay, you know what? We have an amazing pass rush. We have great receivers. We have a great quarterback who we love. We have a great running back in Cam Scadaboo. Our secondary is invested in. Let's just go BPA. You know what that ends up being potentially? You either end up with an offensive lineman who could be, really, really good, or you end up with another receiver and you could use Nabers and Waddle in the slot. And then you have Nabers, Waddle, and another 1st-round receiver. You have an embarrassment of riches on offense. That could be the reality of what the Giants walk into. And Jackson Dart goes into next year, his 2nd season, with one of the best, if not the best, wide receiver room in football. That's what that could look like one of the best. And now the offense is situated for success long term, and you can use your draft picks on offensive linemen. You can spend a little money on offensive linemen because, again, keep in mind, guys, Waddle's cap hit next year would be $8 million. That's freaking chump change. You can find a one-year guy like Tevin Jenkins, for example, that Anthony loved, to solve your right guard position. So, you can even go get Kevin Zeitler, who still looks good. And obviously, he's a bit older, but there's guys floating around out there that have good value still. So Waddle's cap hits and Waddle's contract should not be a concern. Make that very clear. You can always restructure. You can always put void years in the future. There's ways to open up money. This is when you do it for moves like this, for big blockbuster, big game moves like this. You do it when your rookie contract your quarterback's in the rookie contract, and he's only in the first year. He's only in the first year of that rookie contract. This is when you go balls to the wall. This is when you open up that contention window. This is when you be aggressive. And the Giants have an opportunity to do that. Jaylen Waddle is the biggest fish on the market potentially. And that's why we're hearing so many rumors. They are going all out for this guy. I said it 3 days ago as a joke. I would give up a second-round pick for Jaylen Waddle today. And suddenly it spiraled into a whole thing. And everyone's talking about Jaylen Waddle now. I was a joke when I made it. I was just saying, like, yeah, I would definitely do that. And now it's a possibility. And people reporting that the Giants have actually made contact with the Dolphins about this. So that would be crazy. This is a move the Giants should be willing to make, and the cap hits are very manageable. Do not get scared by the money part of it.
Yeah, the money part of it is all chill, man. The Giants will find a way to get Jaylen Waddle under the contract or under the salary cap. I have no concerns about that. The concern is the price tag. So, again, like I said, there were initial reports that the Dolphins wouldn't take anything less than a first-round pick. That's a non-starter for the New York Giants. They're not shipping off a first-round pick for a player under contract, even if it is Jaylen Waddle. However, then it was maybe he could be had for a second-round pick. And now all of a sudden, Benjamin Albright is saying perhaps it could be a third-round pick. Personally, Alex, I think there's going to be a bidding war. I think it's going to take a second-round pick to get Jaylen Waddle. But even still, I would make that deal. And I want to get your take on the mock draft that I do have on the screen. For those of you listening on Apple or Spotify, not mock draft, mock trade that we have up there is Giants receive Jaylen Waddle and a 2026 fourth-round pick. Dolphins receive the Giants 2026 second-round pick and the Giants 2026 fifth-round pick. Now, if the terms of that trade sound familiar, they should. That is the exact terms of the Brian Burns trade that the Giants made last offseason. And this is the argument that I'm going to make in favor of this mock trade. The trade that the Giants made for Brian Burns last year, they would make 10 times out of 10 times over and over again. That is a steal at this point for the New York Giants. If you feel like trading for Jaylen and Waddle can give you a similar impact to your offense that the trade that you made for Brian Burns has given you to your defense, you make the deal. That's the way that I'm looking at it. Brian Burns has had a tremendous impact on the New York Giants defense. He is one of their most valuable players. He's looking like a defensive player of the year candidate, if not front runner, at this stage in the season. He was a young player who was undervalued by the franchise he was playing for, who was underutilized by that franchise, who was playing for a bad franchise that couldn't maximize his potential. The Giants took him, put him in a new defense, in a new environment situation, said, we value you. We're going to make you a star. And all of a sudden, Burns is one of the best pass rushers in football. It's a very similar situation that Burns found himself in Carolina to the one that Jaylen Waddle finds himself right now in Miami. He needs a change of scenery. If he gets that change of scenery, there is potential for an extreme breakout. And I think that breakout could happen here with the New York Giants. And that's why second and fifth for Brian Burns, that was the deal last year. I would trade the second and the fifth for Jaylen Waddle in a heartbeat. I know the Giants wouldn't have a third round pick. They would have no day two picks after that. There's other ways that you can find picks. And honestly, at the end of the day, if you're looking at it, second round picks, what are the odds that you're getting a Jaylen Waddle? Very slim to none. Man. I'm taking that trade, second and a fifth for Waddle. I would do it all day. Alex, what's your take on it?
Who gives a shit about second round picks? We have been conditioned as Giants fans to overvalue draft picks because all we ever have to look at is the draft. Like, just take a second to process that, guys. If you're watching, listening, we have been conditioned to only look forward to the NFL draft. I look forward to week 1, and then I'm disappointed from there on out. I'm only conditioned to enjoy the NFL draft, not the actual game being played. That's what the Giants have done to us. So just remember, second round picks are also gambles, right? This gamble allows you to get a proven WR1 style receiver already under contract with 2 very manageable cap hits rest of the year and next year, right? That is extremely rare. If you have to give up a second round pick to do that, you do it. Why? Because what would you rather have? Tyler Nubin or Jaylen Waddle? John Michael Schmitz or Jaylen Waddle? You know what I mean? I could keep going on and on and on if you really want to regarding that. I mean, the Giants, the second round picks that they've acquired over the last couple of years, the players they've gotten have not been worth the I guess you could say the possible outcome of going on an alternative direction, the opportunity cost of that. Brian Burns, I'll ask you this: would you guys redo if you could retrade? Would you keep that second round pick, or would you go out and go get Brian Burns? I imagine everyone here would say, "Yeah, I want Brian Burns." Right? They got him when he was ascending. Jaylen Waddle has been stalling, not because of his own talents, because of everybody around him. That offense is garbage. We saw flashes of it, but they also had Tyreek Hill and David Achane. Like, how many playmakers do you need to have for them to have a bad offense anyway? Like, it's schematics, it's quarterback, it's pass protection. They're just a mess, right? The Giants have some structure right now. Leverage that. And for people that's saying, well, Jaylen Waddle's injury prone, I actually thought the same thing about 2 days ago. And then Anthony was like, what are you talking about, dude? He's not injury prone. Guys played like basically the entire season every single year. 16 games, 17 games, 14 games, 15 games. He's already played all 6 games this year. He's 27 years old. So I was definitely off about that. I don't know why I thought he was injury prone, but a lot of people seem to think similar to me. They see him listed on the injury report and assume he's missing games. That's probably what I saw in the past. But it's not true. He's playing a lot of games. The most games he missed in an entire season over the last 4 years was 4 games. Guys, we just watched some league neighbors miss the whole rest of the season, and he's been in the league for 1 year. So, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like that. That's not a good argument. Injury prone, injury risk is not a good argument for Jaylen Waddle. It is a good argument for Chris Olave because of the concussions. But just keep in mind, if you're in the comment section saying he gets injured a lot, it's not true.
You're 100% right. And the last point that I'm going to make to buff some narratives, Jaylen Waddle is 5'10", 185. He's not remotely the same size as our 5'7" wide receiver, Wan'Dale Robinson. They play different positions. Wan'Dale is exclusive to the slot. Jaylen Waddle, look at his snap shares for where he aligns. He does play on the outside. He plays primarily as the Z. He's a very good outside receiver. He's physical. He's a thick 185 too. He's not like 185, but he's really 165, 175 like Wan'Dale. Listen, guys, I like Wan'Dale. Alex loves Wan'Dale. Jaylen Waddle and Wan'Dale, not comparable. Jaylen Waddle's a better player and they don't even remotely play the same way. So we got 2 other guys that we are going to fly through, just some speedier options here, lesser favorable options, but nonetheless some backup plans for the New York Giants that we're going to go through next, Alex. We're going to start off here with Jakobi Meyers, who I'm not the biggest fan of for the New York Giants. I think he's a very good player, but he is 28 years old. He'll be 29 years old in a few weeks. I think that the Giants should be looking at players who are able to fit a more long-term plan. I don't know how much Jakobi Meyers has left before he regresses. And also, when you're looking at his career averages, this isn't a perennial 1,000-yard receiver like potentially Chris Olave or Jaylen Waddle could be. This is a guy who's more of a pure WR2 who will give you 700 to 800 yards. And we've had that for a while with Darius Slayton. And I'm not comparing the two. Jakobi Meyers is a better player, but just when you're looking at production, I don't think Jakobi Meyers is the elite level production, nor the high level upside that the New York Giants should be looking for at this trade deadline. Now, again, he's going to be cheaper because he's older. So if this is the last plan, I'll take it. I think that the Giants should walk away with the wide receiver. And there is a way where I would be happy with the Jakobi Meyers trade. He's just lower on the totem pole for me is all.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that there's a reason the Raiders are not extending him, right? He's their best receiver by far. It's not like they can't extend him. They can, but they're deciding not to. So why? Why are they deciding? Probably, Anthony, because Jakobi Meyers is asking for WR1 money, and the Raiders do not think he's a WR1. So the Giants acquiring him, there could be a concern there that you acquire Jakobi Meyers, and he's like, yeah, I'm not settling for anything less than this amount. And the Giants are like, well, we're not paying that. So there is a possibility that you walk into a firestorm in contractual negotiations with Jakobi Meyers because he overvalues his worth. Like you said, he's a good player, not a bad player, good hands, savvy route runner. He's a decent threat, but he's not a WR1. He is a high-end WR2 at best. And the Giants can afford to go big game hunting. I'd say Jakobi Meyers is a deer when the Giants should be hunting bears. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of how I would be doing like the deer is going to feed you, but the bear is going to hold you through the whole winter. And Jaylen Waddle is going to hold you through the whole winter. I think, if we're going with the animal kind of analogies here, I'd say that Chris Olave is more of a moose and he'll get you through most of the winter, but he's not going to get you the whole winter. Jerry Jeudy's going to drop, the knife that's meant to fillet. But, I do think that when it comes to Jakobi Meyers, he's a good player. Would I be happy to get him? Sure. He's an upgrade. He is an upgrade. Like, I'd be happy to get Jakobi Meyers, but I am concerned about the contract situation because I think he overvalues himself, and he's not going to be this like superstar. He's not going to change the offense to a degree that Jaylen Waddle would, and I think that even Olave would. Olave would have more of an impact too. So, Meyers is the third best option on my list. I think maybe even the fourth. He might even be behind the next guy that we're going to talk about. But right now it's Waddle, Olave, and then everybody else to me personally.
Needed you to keep going there. I was trying to pull up the mock trade. So here's the mock trade that I had cooked up for this. It was Jakobi Meyers in exchange for a 5th round pick. I'll say this, Alex, we kind of rounded all of our points here on Jakobi Meyers. But for that specific mock trade, if the Giants can't land Waddle, if they can't land Olave, I would take Jakobi Meyers for a 5th round pick. He is a very good player. He will give you 800 yards opposite Malik Neighbors, giving you over 1,000, and he'll put the ball in the end zone a few times. He's a good player. I would make this trade. I just would be skeptical to make any trade for him due to his age and his price tag. And like you said, the Raiders don't want to extend him. Why should we want to extend him? It's a valid question. But he is a very good player. So if that is the option that the New York Giants take, it is one that I ultimately will probably be okay with. But one more player to get through here, Alex. Let's go ahead and talk about a guy who, if you're a long-term Fireside Giants viewer, like you've been around from the start, I think you guys know I was a big Jerry Jeudy fan coming out of that NFL draft. I thought he was going to be an absolute star, and throughout his career, he really hasn't been. Last year, he started to show flashes like, hey, maybe it's not too late. Maybe he has a late breakout. Maybe he can be a star receiver. He put up 1,200 yards, 4 touchdowns, 90 receptions. One thing we know about Jerry Jeudy, guy can run some routes and get open. He does that at an exceptional level. Another thing that we know about him, doesn't really hold on to the football too well. Lots of drops in his career, and that's a valid point of contention that a lot of Giants fans have with Jerry Jeudy. Now, to me, the way that I see it, I think a lot of his drops are concentration drops and frustration drops. I think he hates playing for the Browns. I think he hated playing for the Broncos, and I think he wants to play for a team with some energy and a good quarterback. And the New York Giants, I think they have a good quarterback, and they definitely have energy. And I think that Jerry Jeudy could honestly thrive here. He can play inside. He can play outside. He can move all over the offense. And I really think that when you're looking at his ability to give you 900 yards a season, whether you're talking about as a number 1 receiver for the rest of this year, he's still only 26 years old. He can be a long-term piece for you. I like Jerry Jeudy a lot, and his price tag, very affordable. So I think Jeudy is somebody that the New York Giants should consider. When we're talking about these 4 guys, Alex, for me, it's Waddle 1, Olave 2, it's Jeudy 3, and then it's Jakobi Meyers 4. I still see a lot of upside in Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, man. Listen, if Jeudy could catch the ball regularly, he'd be a WR1, like bar none. But because of those drops, it does, and they happen in big moments sometimes, it does knock him off a little bit. So, what am I going to be happy with Jeudy if you go and acquire him? Absolutely. He is capable of changing the course of a game. He is capable at a very high level. I mean, listen, the Browns and schematics hold back a lot of players. Here's the only fear that I do have is like, Jackson Dart, like we're going to give him this big time weapon, right? But his game right now predicates itself on extending bad plays, like extending broken plays. What I do like specifically about Jeudy and Waddle is that they're so elusive and they're so like slippery in terms of how they get open. I think that it's going to bode, those 2 guys specifically bode really well for Jackson Dart because I think that they're just like, if they get open in the open field, they can take it to the house. Like Meyers is not that type of guy. Olave can be. I don't really visualize him as like at that same tier, but he's shifty enough. Jeudy would be awesome. You just have to live with the drops, and that's something the Giants consistently live with is players that can't catch the football. Slayton can't catch the football. Even Neighbors has drops every now and then. Theo Johnson drops the ball all the time. Like Wandale had drop issues in the past. He's been pretty good this year, so I won't label him with that bunch. But then like Bo Collins like has drop issues. Like a lot of guys in this team can't catch the freaking ball. So, adding another one to the mix that can't catch is a bit concerning. Waddle has had his fair share of drops too, so I'm not gonna ignore that concern. Like there have been some red flags about that, but like he's another tier of talent. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what the Giants are willing to give up. Like if these, because we're labeling like 4th, 6th round picks, 4th and a 6th for Jeudy. That's not that bad. His contract is not bad. You still get to keep your 1st and 2nd round picks, which is pretty great, to be fair.
Yeah, and the report that the New York Giants only want to part with day 3 picks, puts them in line with a guy like a Jerry Jeudy or a Jakobi Meyers. Maybe they don't want to go all in and trade high valuable day 2, day 1 draft capital for a guy like a Waddle or an Olave. It's possible that they do, and it's possible that they make a deal for one of those guys. But at the same time, if they only want to give up day 3 picks, I really like Jerry Jeudy, man. Again, I know those drops are a problem. Believe me, they do give me cause for concern, but he is consistently open. And having a receiver who gets consistently open, that is the number one thing that you want for your rookie quarterback. Give him a dependable and open option to toss the ball to and to pepper, especially throughout the rest of a rookie season. That's what I would love to see. And the reason I went with a 4th and a 6th in exchange for Jeudy, as you're seeing in the mock trade if you're watching on YouTube, and as you're hearing us say now, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, 4th and a 6th is exactly what Jerry Jeudy was traded for last season. He was a deadline trade candidate last year. He got traded by the Denver Broncos to the Cleveland Browns for a 4th and a 6th. Here we are 1 year later. I just plugged in the exact same trade value, but honestly, his trade value has probably decreased since then. Yes, he did finish last season very strong, but he's got another year off his contract, and he hasn't had the hottest start to this season. So the value is either the same or a little bit less. Figured I'd throw the 4th and the 6th in there. If it is the same, if it's lower, hey, I'd rather give you guys higher expectations for the trade value. So that way, if it's lower, we get even more excited about it, right? But the 4th and the 6th is a price tag that I would be willing to pay for Jerry Jeudy. I think Jeudy is a very interesting player for the New York Giants. He has a connection with Brian Daboll as well from their time at Alabama. But I also just think he is one of those guys who gets open. And if you have a neighbors who can make catches in contest, in traffic and can do everything for you, but then you've got a guy underneath like a Jeudy who also can go deep, which is an open guy. It's a nice fire and ice almost, if you want to call it that way. So I like Jeudy. I like all of these guys, Alex, but I'll just wrap up, or before we wrap up, I'll make this point. Get me Jaylen Waddle. I will do disgusting things to see Jaylen Waddle in a New York Giants uniform. Yes, I'm getting excited about this one because I am passionate about this one. Jaylen Waddle would change the New York Giants' outlook for the rest of the season. If the Giants acquire Jaylen Waddle at this deadline, our expectations into 2026, Alex, would be the New York Giants need to make it to the playoffs, and they should make it to the playoffs with a second-year quarterback with a lot of promise, with Malik Neighbors coming back healthy, with this defensive line, with Jaylen Waddle pairing with Scatterboo, Dart, Neighbors. Oh my goodness. I get so excited thinking about the potential of that specific offense. So while I like all of these options, oh my God, I want Jaylen Waddle on the New York Giants so badly. It's just going to be, hey, are the Dolphins actually willing to trade him? That is what we will find out in the coming days, maybe the coming weeks. It might be a little while before a deal gets done, but we will keep you all posted regardless on everything that happens regarding the New York Giants and their reported interest in trading for any one of these wide receivers. So do make sure to stay tuned to Fireside Giants. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you listen to Apple or Spotify, make sure to leave us a 5-star review and go ahead and follow us on all our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one. And let's go, Cam Scatta. Boom!
Perfect.